What an incredible episode once again. I think I say that every week. Join us for immediate reaction to episode 6, The Adversary of Westworld, here on AfterBuzz. Neil, buzz us in.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
That sound can only mean one thing. Welcome to the Westworld After Show here on AfterBuzz TV. I am JC Rubio. You can follow me or support me over at JC Rubio TV on Twitter, Instagram, all across the board. And joining me tonight, lovely lady to my left.
Hey, how's it going? My name's Kari Lane. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Kari D Lane and Facebook at Kari Lane Actor. And I will be looking at the chat, so if you want to chat with us, we're available in the live chat.
And I'm Dave Child. I'm back. And you can find me at MrDaveChild on Twitter or just go to davechild.com.
We missed you, brother, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And speaking of missing, we got a quick shout out to Joelle Monique, who could not be with us this week. Hope to see you next week. We can't wait to see you. But we also have an announcement. We have the voice of God as I turn off my cell phone. The voice of God, the engineer tonight, Mr. Neil. What's going on, Neil?
Hey guys, what's going on?
Yeah.
I know he has a lot of theories, so.
I have a couple of theories, and mostly I was just very excited about what happened in the episode. It was a lot to unpack, and I'm really excited to get started.
Right.
Yes.
And of
Yeah,
course,
this is...
one last introduction, our fifth host, the chat roll.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shout out to the chat. Let us know what your comments. We're going to be peppering them in throughout the whole show, so.
Just refreshing.
Yeah, please talk it out. This is like the type of show that most of it is just going to be us trying to figure out what's going on. And that's what's great about it.
Absolutely. And that's what's amazing about the show, and we were talking about this before, is like, even if you think you know what's going on, it changes,
Right.
but that's what makes it fun and engaging, because then you're never like, oh yeah, I already know what that is. It's like, no. It's like, as soon as you think something, just kidding.
Yeah, and you might be right, but you might be very wrong. as it
Very,
goes
very
on.
wrong. Yes.
And the most of it all is that this is our immediate reaction. We just finished watching it 10 minutes ago, so it's all sinking in, and we welcome you for the ride. Let us know what you know, if we got some things right, wrong, but we're all still trying to figure it out together. So, my first question: overall thoughts tonight? Was it? I hear this every week. Best episode ever. Every week I hear this. Was it tonight?
For me, I'm gonna actually say this wasn't my favorite.
Really?
I liked it a lot. I think there was a lot. I mean, I think it's one of the better episodes of television I've seen. But as far as Westworld episodes, it was a little lacking. I saw it kind of. I saw a lot of catch up in this. I saw a lot of like them trying to tie loose ends together, or starting to. And I liked it, and I liked that we got a break from William and Dolores, and we focused on a side of the story we haven't really focused on for a while. But there was a bit of a lot of the Maeve stuff and the motivation for talking with those tech guys. That was a little questionable for me, and it was the first time where I was like, that feels a little written rather than other parts of the show. But other than that, I love the show, and I love what's happening with Ford's family and every other aspect of it. It was that one section that I was a little questionable about.
A little too much expositioning for you?
Yeah, it was a little exposition-y, and it was a bit too easy to get to the next point of the story. They went along with Maeve's plans, like, instantly. And she was able to kind of convince them to keep going. And they do explain why she says that she'll reveal his pimping that he's been kind of doing to the other robots. Sylvester.
Yep.
By the way, both named after cats, Felix and Sylvester. And when we meet them, they're working on like on a bird.
Yes.
So that's I love that. But I don't know why Felix is so okay. Let me take you up to the second level. And when he says like, "This is so stupid," I was like, yes, it is stupid. Why are you doing this?
Well, at least Felix is the guy who's like an easier pushover.
Right.
So him, I can go with it because he's
Lonely
like,
guy, yeah.
all right, cool, whatever. And then Sylvester's the one who's like, nope, absolutely not. And then finally he's like, all right, fine.
Yeah, and the reason why is because he's pimping out the other robots that we just found out about.
This shows how much they fear their work environment. Because both of them don't want to get fired, don't want upper management to find out. But seriously, the entire workspace is all glass, and nobody notices a dude from a different department walking around in a completely different uniform and holding like his electronic device. I'm like, either everybody's too invested in their own work, nobody cares. It's bystander apathy. People are just like, whatever.
I also think that's the weirdest place to work. I think you're just used to, I don't quite know what's supposed to be going on because that's a buffalo and that's like naked people.
But if they're wearing like different kind of uniforms, so you would know if you only saw these people on certain levels. So if they're on your floor, it might be a bit like, maybe you're not going to go, hey, HQ, there's weird stuff going on. But you could maybe be like,
but to be fair, I don't think they passed very many people in the hallway.
Oh, no, they passed a lot of people. Well, not in hallways, but in offices.
In
and
the
they
offices,
passed a lot of
but
people.
everyone in the office was like doing this, and I couldn't even tell who was a robot and who was a person.
Well, let's backtrack this.
I
want to back it up because you guys mentioned a great thing that why wasn't Felix caught with Maeve? Let's go back a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
No, let's go back a few weeks ago with Elsie and when she framed the other tech because of the stuff he was doing with that host.
Yes.
So you're always being watched. So I wonder if they're if they're letting them, they're letting Felix and Maeve roam. They're letting someone else, a puppet master is letting them go a little.
Right, and
I'll buy that better then. Be like, all right, fine, they kind of
the possibility at least.
And not to get into the weeds with this, but I also, for the first time, thought in the previous episode that maybe the butchers and the people working the low-level jobs especially could also be hosts, because he said something odd, like in the previous episode Sylvester said to Felix, they should have gotten that out of you in the embryonic stage, which to me was like, that's a weird way of saying they should have not have hired him. That's a weird, it almost sounds like they should have not built you or something, which is maybe a bit too extreme, but it made me wonder if maybe that's why they went along with it so easily, is because they're kind of programmed to be this, but that's maybe too much.
You know, and my question is, so I guess we're basically talking about, because tonight you could kind of call it the Maeve show. I mean,
yes.
It was a lot of very Maeve heavy, and I also say this was kind of its Turing test as well, because like you mentioned, there was no Dolores and no William, and the show. I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a bit because it wasn't, the show can go on forth without its main character.
Yeah, and sometimes the problem with a show that has too many main characters or too many characters in general, it could feel cluttered because they're trying to, we haven't addressed them at all in this storyline, and it's good that they have the freedom to let storylines breathe by taking a break from them.
Now, I was going to ask, since we figured out that Maeve now knows a way to get to Felix, it's just have her, get killed over,
Yeah, I love that opening where she got she got
me
killed.
out. Yeah.
I thought that was also, I like that it makes me wonder if she has the ability to actually kill herself. I don't think that she does, because that's probably in one of the prime directives.
It should be, yeah.
Yeah, so it made it so she knew if she got a guy who would go that far in the bedroom, that could be a way for her to die. So I like to see her planning and using the guests as a way to get to the other side. And she knows a way to wake up, which is that count 3, 2, 1.
And remember, this is, as we find out later in the episode, that she, as someone else is programming her to become aware quicker.
Right.
Yes, we learned that. That was fun.
So that brings up the question of who is it? How did they get into her? And how is this happening? Is it someone who's actually behind the scenes? Or is it part of that program that I thought there was like kind of a worm going in between all these awakening hosts in the previous episodes? That's where the
violent delights.
These violent ends have violent delights have violent ends.
Someone pointed out in the chat though that the missing host did kill himself with the rock.
That is true. Oh, that's true. But that is someone
But he was a little off. There were things not working correctly with him.
Yeah, that's.
But he was able to kill himself, so good call, guys.
Good call. Good call.
Thank you for that super fan. Thank you. All right, so now let's talk about the whole journey where Maeve is discovering her true nature. We see that I remember, where's the quote where it says your true calling. Yeah. So what is Maeve's true calling?
Well, right now I think she's still trying to figure out what she is.
Yes.
Because think of being a prostitute in the Old West and then discovering your a designed robot who has all of these attributes, and also having the ability to then make yourself smarter and
That'd
make
be
you
cool.
change yourself
Absolutely.
and work with your stats. Like, that's amazing. I've played games that are a lot like this, like Fallout and Skyrim, where I want to go back and change that stuff, and I work on trying to get more charm or intelligence, and she's figured out a way to do it right away.
Instant.
Yeah.
You know, and the most impactful with the whole Felix, Maeve, Sylvester for me was halfway through the episode where she gets to see her fellow host being killed, being destroyed, and
Yes.
being born again. And just for someone to take that in all at once.
Well, they weren't dying in this space, but she saw the dead bodies
the
and
dead-
them cleaning it up and treating them just like trash almost.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a lot to take in. You could see it
Oh,
in her,
yeah.
the reaction by Tandy Newton's character. She's just, I mean, put ourselves in that situation. I know we can't, but I'm just saying.
Right. Well,
Well,
that's
the
absorbing that.
biggest part was when she saw herself with her daughter.
Exactly.
yeah, and when she got to see the opening Welcome to Westworld,
Yeah.
and she saw her memories and her dreams, or what she thought were dreams and are actually the past lives of that she was put in previous incarnations.
Hold on. And Carrie Green brought something up I didn't have a chance to talk about, and we're on the same page. Why didn't Sylvester or Felix, instead of turning up her intelligence or her attributes, why not, on a flick of a switch, just turn her down?
Turn her down. Well,
But she's also being pulled by someone else too, with a higher,
Yeah, they
with a higher
adjusted
clearance
stuff
than that.
before anyways. So, yeah, even if they did something, it could be adjusted at any time later anyways.
And also, they're kind of just learning this as they go.
Yep,
They're just butchers. They aren't in charge of programming these hosts usually. So it's not like they can just be, oops, she's now sentient. Why don't we just wipe everything?
Well,
Which is what I thought. Like, why didn't they just do that?
Just my concern is because it's gonna a red flag is gonna go up either way. Might as well for survival. She had Maeve had a knife on Sylvester. And this is
Yeah.
before the attribute scene, but I'm just saying in general, why couldn't they I don't want to deal with this chaotic effing mess. We got to turn her down. We are the gods in a sense, even though we're just butchers.
Yeah, but if they
Yeah.
make her stupid, then she might act out, and that will bring up that red flag. So
Or
it is,
even when Felix started messing with her and got all the error codes and it was like almost going
Right.
to break. So, I
That-
don't know, they have risk of that problem too.
Well, that happened also because it's a flashback to the sheriff in the first episode as well.
Yeah.
yeah.
So when he had that short, when he just didn't know
Yeah.
where to go. So I wonder, the voice that the sheriff was hearing too is all one and the same. Whoever's controlling them both.
Right. Yeah. Well, we did get a sense of, we were actually told this episode that whose voice it is, and we all kind of
Yes.
knew it was Arnold, but now we have someone who recognizes Arnold's voice, the kid version of Ford,
Right.
saying who was built by Arnold. We discovered in this episode that that's who's been talking through this person.
Well, yeah, this episode was great because it confirmed a lot of people's theories because everything keeps changing. But yeah, now it's like, we know Arnold. Like, okay, cool. Because even
Yeah.
if you thought so, it's like, well, okay, now we know.
And I mean, we don't know for sure if that's the same person who's altering Maeve, but it's pretty likely that it's Arnold or whoever this third party is that's infiltrating a lot of the hosts, who's beaming in a lot of this transmission. And now we also know that Teresa is tied to that as well.
Yes. Oh, you want to say something, Karen?
No, I've had a lot of people, there's been a couple people pointing out in the chat that the logos have changed different times.
Right. And I was going to talk about where we talk about, I hate to say it, the blasted word.
Timelines.
Timelines.
And then people are like, oh, I don't like the timeline.
Yeah, I do want to get.
Maybe that's the wrong word.
Yeah, well, timelines is also hard to say because that sounds like.
Right.
It's when we bring up timelines, instantly people are thinking about, we're talking about William is the Man in Black and the Man in Black is William. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think timelines could be 3 days apart, 30 years
Yes.
apart. So we're just talking about what we're seeing in order.
Yes.
So I have a hard time keeping track of the different W's, but we do see a different W when Bernard goes downstairs.
Yes.
But that could be also because it's downstairs. And I was going to say, I know it's a decommissioned area, but either why don't they completely shut it down or have better working electricity or something? Because
Right,
it's
they
like,
seem to run away from it.
yeah, just why don't you just completely demolish it like have it completely an empty space or have remodeled, put something else there, because it just seems like a disaster waiting to happen. Like the cold storage from the way early episodes of it melting. You're like,
honestly,
waiting for the army attack.
That kind of tends to happen in big corporations or big, like there's. I was just listening to a story the other day about finding houses and offices that just are empty and abandoned, not because people flee, but just because they just can't be bothered to do it. So they just build on top of it and move on and just leave that abandoned. I will say there is a great cameo in when Bernard goes down. You see a little bit of Yul Brynner.
Yep.
A little bit of the gunslinger in the corner,
cool.
which was awesome. I love it. Just out of focus, so we don't see his face. But that was a great nod to the original 1970s film.
You know, and that's, like you said, we're talking about the logo, and that's the same logo that we see William and Logan come in on episode 2.
Yes.
So where do we explain that? Why is it different?
I also thought, I was watching your episode last week, and I kept being frustrated because I'm like, no one's bringing up the fact that the Man in Black has mentioned that the robots were different in the original. When he went, they were all made of gears, and
No, he did say that, yeah?
he did say that.
We did.
Okay.
You guys didn't talk about it
Oh,
enough.
we didn't
Like
talk
someone
about it.
brought it up on the chat a little bit. So maybe go like when I was watching you guys, I was just like, I wish I was there. But
You could be there,
yeah.
digitally.
But then and the thing is, in this episode, I thought that was almost proof that William isn't the Man in Black, because the robots are different and they wouldn't be spouting blood and stuff. But now, in this episode, we see what those original robots look like, and they're actually not that different from the blood and guts like robots we know now. I think all that, like the little boy, is pretty convincing, and now I'm wondering if I think Dolores is the same sort of original robot and made out of the same sort of things.
I wonder if anybody could give her that code to get the face open thing.
Yeah, I just want to say like turn another cheek.
Is
and
it
then
only
it opens
Ford?
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
At
Ford
this
seems to
point,
have like
you
a
know?
special ability above everyone else's.
Yes.
Like he's able to stop different people from attacking. So that means, I mean, that could mean that they are the same person. I kind of want to know sooner than later. I'm kind of sick of. I want to either have them pass each other and go, hey, or we actually get a definitive answer, because this is drawing out a bit too much for me.
I'm hoping that we do get that answer, because I think if we do, like I said, I hope we do, I think that's when the series will truly start. I think this is kind of just the beginning. We're coming into the world. Once we find that out, then where do we go from there? And that's when we see the real world of Westworld, where it goes from here.
Yeah.
That's what I'm waiting for. I think that's because it's a big answer. It's the big story of season 1.
Yeah. There's also a lot of talk about Arnold in this episode.
Yeah.
When Bernard comes upon the cabin in the woods, he thinks he sees the dad and of the family and says Arnold.
Yeah.
And I think that's because in the original, when he was shown a photo previously of young Ford with supposedly Arnold, that was the same person as the dad of this. I've looked at, there's people side-by-side comparisons out there, exact same person. It's supposed to be the exact same actor, which means that is either Arnold. I don't think it is. I think that's not a picture of Arnold, which brings a lot of people, there's a favorite fan theory that Bernard is actually, oh man, we're going down holes here. Bernard is actually a copy of Arnold.
Okay.
And that Arnold is someone that looked exactly like Bernard, and Bernard is a host. Which is why people think that the third timeline, sorry everybody.
We're quoting Nerdist.
This is a Nerdist thing, but is also, I think, has some, it's important to bring up. The third timeline, which we don't see in this episode, is when Bernard is talking to Dolores. The one-on-ones with Dolores could actually be Arnold and Dolores.
Yes.
Here's a funny thing that you brought up, that scene with Dolores and Bernard. Did you notice when Ford was talking to the young boy, it was the same room? It's the same room where Bernard has the talks with Dolores.
Really? Like kind of a basement-y?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Wait, when?
At the end where Bernard is talking to the young boy after they killed killed the dog, Jock, I mean.
Yeah.
And he's talking to the young boy.
Oh, yes.
That's the same
okay.
room where Bernard and Dolores have the same talk.
It's kind of more of a private, out-of-the-way talk.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which that's interesting because it means that when Bernard or whoever, let's say Bernard, has that talk with Dolores, it's meant to be a private area, and Ford also has access to that area.
Of
Or
course.
could it be a copy room? Like there's more than one of those?
There could be more than one, and that's also something we should bring up. There also could be more than one host. Like when
Yes,
in the
somebody
previous
had that
episode,
theory too.
yeah, in the previous episode, everyone was saying how like definitive, and I'm just keeping everything could still be vague because everyone's like, well, we definitely know. This is another response to the Nerdist video. We definitely know that there's a different timeline from the previous episode of when Lawrence is killed. Is that his name, right?
Yeah.
Who gets killed with, and then we see him immediately. I was thinking, why can't there be two?
Yeah.
Why can't they build two? There's so many. If you go to Disney, there are so many of the same robots because
True.
it costs less.
Yeah.
But anyways,
No.
I'm going down rabbit holes.
No,
here.
that's fine. But
Well, that's one of those, like, the way they edited made me go, okay, it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same guy, but a different point in time.
Uh-huh.
But it's totally likely they have another one. But I guess, would you always make it so they could never run into each other?
Yeah,
That's
I
like
guess
time
so.
travel. Like,
Yeah.
what happens if they run into each other? They'd be like, whoa, wait a minute.
Or they could just be, oh, there's my twin brother.
Yeah.
There's my twin brother who's
Yeah.
also part of this.
Who's
Oh, boy.
completely identical.
Also has a backstory.
Yeah.
you know, I think we kind of glossed over the fact that about Teresa and Bernard.
Yeah.
You know, and I know Joel's not here, and she called it a few weeks ago that there would be an end to this relationship.
Yes, she
Yeah.
did.
She called it weeks ago, and then we find out. Now, was she using Bernard? Because she.
I think she was lonely.
Well, we
And
do
yes.
find out that she, according to what Elsie finds in that theater, which, by the way, when Elsie's in the theater, I don't know why I'm saying theater like that, but
You
Theater.
sound so regal.
The
theater. When Elsie's in the theater, I was having so many flashbacks to Blade Runner. That reminded me so much of Blade Runner because of all the dolls and the little
Yep.
things in a dark room.
I just don't like that she has. I mean, there's nowhere safe in that room, but I think I did not like how
that
she's
was-
totally like nobody could possibly walk up next to me
I think
at
you're-
all, and I'm just like, because I would want. It's her back is to an open room, and I mean the
Right.
other side is less open, but at least I would have had my back. I would have been facing out.
But you're just feeling what they made you feel. They're trying to make you feel that like sense of doom the entire time we cut
Yeah, but
to
I would
Elsie.
have wanted her to have some sense of. I don't like her nonchalant. There's absolutely impossible that nobody would come here.
I think
If
you're
she
just
thinks
feeling
it's
uncomfortable because that's what they were trying to go for.
Yeah, but like if she knows it's this deep and like she's like, oh, this is big. Oh my gosh, like she already knows something going on. Wouldn't you be suspicious of fellow employees or people keeping an eye out?
I don't know. It's such a big park. It's such a big park. You feel like if you're in one corner of it, you'll be okay.
I'd probably be a bit
And-
more looking over my shoulder.
I love that I felt uncomfortable every
Yeah,
single
no, they did a
time
good
that
job. I was
there.
like,
I felt creeped out more in this episode than I've done in any other episodes, which has been great.
someone I like this in the chat for your comment of was Teresa using Bernard. Bernard's a sex bot. I like
Yep.
that. It's funny, guys.
Yeah, it could be.
You know,
She's lonely and needed some company.
I'm kind of saddened though with going back to Teresa that the fact is she was always kind of the QA. She was always kind of the hard ass. And
Yeah.
and for her to be the mole, you know, I almost wanted it to be. And I hate saying this. It's not that Teresa was an unlikable character, but I wanted it to be like more of a twist of some like
Well,
a truly likable character.
Totally random thing about her I was surprised is when what's the writer's name? The guy who's the writer within
Sizemore.
it?
Lee
Sizemore, thank you. When he randomly throws out that she's Danish. That was
Oh.
such a bizarre
I
little.
didn't hear
He's
that.
like blah blah that Danish bitch. I'm like,
I-
why do you need to add that part? And I'm like, well, I guess she kind of had an accent, and
It's
I always wondered, but it
international,
felt
I guess.
random.
I-
Well, she understood Chinese.
Oh, that's true.
Which any viewers, do you guys know Chinese and what was said?
Yes.
Is that a Danish
I
thing?
wanted. What?
Is that any Danish viewers out
No,
there?
no,
understand
no, no,
someone
no.
was speaking to her on the phone in Chinese, and she understood it and replied in English.
Right.
But then later, Sizemore's like, you called her Danish. So she speaks Chinese, is Danish,
So I
and
assume
speaks
all
English.
Danish people speak Chinese.
Apparently, but yeah, anyone who speaks Chinese, I want to know what was said.
Yeah,
there.
that's.
totally
I want to
was
know.
like, "Oh, what
yeah,
was
I
it?"
want to know what was said.
I
Yeah.
will say though that we don't quite know if she is the mole. We know that
She logged on.
that
and
there's
sent
proof
Stuff. Yes.
that she's the mole, but we don't
Yeah.
know if the mole is using her codes to actually put this through.
Yep. Someone in the chat just said, "Is she being framed?"
I will say that if we go down the road of Bernard being an Arnold, there could be parts of the story he could have memories he doesn't have, and he's using her code to actually be the mole. So it could actually be Bernarnold.
Bernarnold.
Hashtag
Bernarnold.
Hashtag Bernarnold.
Yes.
Could be the actual mole using Teresa's info, which he knows because they're boning.
Okay, and then someone just said there can be instant translations for the speaking the Chinese. No, I'd like to think that she understood it. She's that intelligent. She can speak multiple languages.
Yeah, I think that
Why
if you're running Westworld, I think you're probably fluent in
because
quite
they
a few.
probably deal
Wait
with
a minute.
international customers.
Yeah.
But since we're so far advanced, I hate to go off a tangent, but
Like
we have
a Babelfish, like you just instantly understand
No,
it.
I don't, well,
we
that's
have the tech to do that. We're pretty
Well,
close.
they have. I've seen
Yeah.
ads for it. And they have little headphones you can do it, but that's boring.
I know it's boring. Sorry.
That's
okay.
boring.
Yeah.
Okay, back to what we were talking about. And it's funny
Yes.
you brought about Bernardold.
Yeah.
I thought about that at the very end, but is it just too many twists that if at the end, if he's the one pulling the strings?
I mean, that's the big problem with this.
Sorry, guys, for
That's
all
the
the
big problem
speculation.
with this show is because it's one thing that's worrying is there's so many paths and there's so many.
Yes.
It's like a maze, people.
Someone just pointed out that Bernard has a weird glitch in his hand as he looks at his tablet at one point, and then they felt that was a clue he's a host.
Oh, interesting.
At 8:08, that's very specific.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I do feel. I'm gonna write that down actually.
I'm gonna go watch it.
Go
when I
look
go
back,
home.
yes.
I do want
Yeah,
to talk
no.
a little bit about, since we brought up the maze, if we can step back from Teresa a little bit.
Yes.
And maybe focus on the man in black.
Absolutely.
Who's off on his search for the maze. And we find out a little bit more about the maze in this episode.
Yes.
He talks to
Ooh,
Teddy.
the Native American mythology.
Yeah,
Yes.
says like what the Native American mythology is, and we also know that most of the Native American mythology in Westworld has some link to what's actually happening in Westworld, because
Yes.
we see that with the shades in the previous episode. So he says that, if I can remember it right, he says that the story about the maze is about a man who dies and is born again several times, and until one day he comes back and wreaks havoc on the people that have done him wrong, and then creates a house and builds the house to protect himself
The
from
maze around the house.
Yeah, the maze
Yes.
around the house. And so that's what the maze is getting to this guy who keeps coming back and destroying people. Now, to me, that sounds like Arnold. That sounds like they're talking about Arnold,
Sure.
who has died and maybe has been coming back, then we don't know, and has built this house. Now, for all we know, the house is like a server in a basement somewhere, and is just containing his brain there.
And even the maze was on the branding that they were going to do
Yeah.
on Teddy and our man in black.
I
So that is everywhere. And then like in the wood at the little Spanish village.
The one thing I can't wrap my brain around is Ford for or against this maze?
If he's God, let's say he's the god of the park.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Isn't it his will to let them figure it out on their own? He didn't stop Man in Black last week.
No,
He didn't
that's
stop
true.
him as well. And then when he noticed those gentlemen playing that game on the table, and he sees the maze etched on the table.
Yeah, he doesn't get rid of it.
But he's slightly surprised.
He
I
had a
don't know
little
if he-
bit of a prickle. He
Yeah.
was not very. He didn't smile and he wasn't interested. He was kind of like,
Real quick, do you guys
Yeah.
remember the game they were playing on that table?
It was chess, right?
No, it's
Dominoes.
Dominoes, yeah.
So here's something.
Okay.
You know the what Dolores says to Maeve that sort of sets Maeve off. These violent delights have violent
Yes.
ends.
Yeah.
What if that is a domino piece Arnold set up in programming for everyone?
Right.
Oh,
Right.
like
We
that
know-
just makes everyone switch?
Yeah, we
Okay.
know that.
Yeah, yeah.
We know
That's
that
the line
they
in code.
we know that they like vocal commands
Yes.
Right.
for their hosts.
Except they
And we
weren't
know-
building like advanced dominoes setup. I mean, yeah, they were playing dominoes, but in that way that
Right.
No, just symbolic.
yeah.
I
guess
get
so.
you. Okay.
We know that they like vocal commands. We know that Ford has some that only he can use, and we know that there are some vocal commands that anybody can use. You know,
Yeah.
like when they put host to sleep, they say that one line. What if there's a command that nobody knows that Arnold just put into the host brains, and whenever they hear that line, they adopt a different programming, and
Yeah.
that's why Arnold's that's why a high clearance level was able to change part of Maeve's programming, and that's what the guys were talking about. Sylvester and Felix were talking about.
Right, some type of vocal command that's there.
Yeah.
So, what I'm wondering though is because it seems like, okay, so we had in this episode, the construction crew was talking about, oh well, we can destroy this town for your new project.
Didn't want to.
And he's like, no, I don't want to. And then he immediately sees proof that the town is maybe linked, and I think it was the town where the little girl was at.
Yes, exactly.
So the town is linked to the maze. It's one of the stops in the maze, which means he doesn't want to get rid of the maze.
Yeah.
Which is interesting and unexpected. I feel like I always thought the maze was some way to unlock Arnold and kind of wreak havoc on Westworld. But if Ford wants it to stay, I don't know what that means. Also, I want to note that this episode is called The Adversary.
Correct.
Which is usually a term reserved for Satan.
In Hebrew, right?
Yeah, in Hebrew. So if Ford is God, which I think we could say Ford is pretty gaudy.
Just a little bit.
Little gaudy. And who is the adversary? And I'm guessing that's Arnold. But it's a weird episode to call The Adversary, because there's no one clear, except everyone mentions the name Arnold over and over again.
Yes.
And everyone's like, he's kind of a third man throughout this whole series, and especially in this episode.
I see it in different levels. Like, I think you're right. You know, that Ford is the possibility of Ford being God, since we know already, and that Arnold possibly being the devil, and also in that, or the adversary, as well as Teresa being the adversary.
Yeah.
Because we're pulling the string out. And I wanted to open it up, since we may have a little time at the end. If a fan wants to call in, hey, Neil, do you have the number that they can call in, and we'll maybe take a call?
Yeah,
I
sure.
can put the number on screen.
Yeah. A lot of great fan theories, and let you guys chime in on what you think of all of this that we're just dissecting here. Now I'm trying to let's see, anything we may have missed.
We also got to mention that the maze was also going to be branded onto Teddy as a sign, because according to the backstory that all those Union soldiers remembered, Teddy...
he shot people.
Yeah, Teddy was partners with Wyatt, who is the big baddie of everything, and it seems to be the bad guy that is maybe going to go up against the Man in Black, and is another kind of mysterious figure right up against Arnold his entire time. So branding him with the maze was also a way of saying you're linked with Wyatt, because Wyatt is a big part of this maze.
Yeah. Can we talk about how Teddy shot up those soldiers?
You mean the bonus level on the video game?
Yeah, seriously.
I was gonna say, if I was the Man in Black, I would be like, oh man, that's I should have done that.
Yes.
I would be so upset if I'm like,
oh, he kind of
out.
did, but he was so pleasantly surprised at this character he thought he knew so well. He's like, oh my gosh. He like got all excited. He's like, and you think you know, man. And he's like, you don't know me.
But also, we have to remember that Teddy is like this.
Someone said Teddy's the adversary.
Yeah, that could be true. That actually could be true. And also, Teddy is like this.
Oh, no, he didn't get branded. Someone said he did. He's like, no, he stopped. He grabbed it.
He stopped
and
it.
turned down the other
He almost got branded.
Yes.
But Teddy is also like this because of something Ford did. Remember the episode where he said, I'm gonna give you a backstory. I'm gonna tie you to Wyatt, and then worked that into the whole thing.
Yep.
So that's another way that maybe Ford is actually for the maze, or is trying to actually help him along the maze by giving him Teddy and giving Teddy all this information. Because he's tied him into the maze now.
Yeah.
I got the feeling he wasn't tied in before that, at least that scene in previous episode.
And they tell you in the writing. Teddy even said, "You know nothing about me." It was something to that effect.
Yeah.
Right? So that leads us to believe. I can only imagine where Teddy's going to go. He started at one point, and where his arc's going to go.
A lot, yeah.
I can.
Yeah. It's exciting.
I'm at a loss right now with all this episode.
Also, we know in this episode that Ford knows about the voice of Arnold.
Yes.
Because the voice of Arnold told his creepy child self that's wandering around the woods to kill a dog, to kill his childhood dog.
Yes.
So the voice of Arnold is affecting his past self.
And also, let's comment on how the fact that Arnold made that family. Because, so now we know, and it was, because I know I brought up, I'm like, okay, who's this weird kid? And then a lot of people are like, it's Ford. I'm like, okay, fine, it's Ford. But I think it's so much more interesting that Arnold made him.
Right. I think
So-
in terms of Ford and Arnold, I think they were kind of the Steve Jobs and Wozniak of the group. And Arnold's the Wozniak who's really the ones who kind of built everything. And Steve Jobs is still smart, but was more of the business savvy side of things.
Well, let's answer some questions. Exploded George asks, why did the boy kill the dog?
Because Arnold told him to.
Yeah,
Because he
I
ate the
think-
rabbit. Well, okay, it's a
Just to answer
compound
questions.
answer. One, the dog ate the rabbit. Then Arnold said you should kill it because then it won't kill again.
Well, we also have to remember what the theory, I forgot what it was called, the bicentennial mind. Is that right?
Bicameral mind?
Bicameral mind, where there's a third, the only way to kind of gain sentience, this is what I took from it at least, this could be wrong. The only way to gain sentience is to have that third level where it's outside of programming, outside of kind of ad-libbing. There's a distant God voice that is giving commands, and when you interpret that God voice, that's kind of the X factor, where it's making it so you're something else, and that's what the Arnold voice is. So I think that Arnold voice is there in order to try and gain sentience to all of these hosts.
I was wondering, in a twist, you just mentioned the X factor of what it possibly could be. Could that also be happening to Maeve? We always say people are pulling her strings. Maybe that's the X factor. Maybe she's possibly evolving on her own, but what is the catalyst for that?
Well,
she's kind of AI of just getting to the next. Someone said earlier. Someone in the chat said Maeve was Skynet.
Yeah, well, there is kind of a Skynet-y thing.
Yeah.
Someone's beaming also corporate espionage out of the park. I don't know if we quite mentioned that. So using the satellites, and that's what is tied in with Teresa, but is maybe not necessarily tied in with Arnold. It feels like it's kind of the same thing, but it might not be. And I'm also wondering if that's tied in with Man in Black somehow. Because he's another business. Does he own the place or?
Well, let's tie that. Could we tie that in, or run it parallel to the introduction of Charlotte? I believe her name is Charlotte. I forgot her name.
Oh right.
Oh,
we
that
forgot about
Charlotte's
lady.
her.
character.
Yes.
We also forgot about
Charlotte
Sizemore's
Hale.
breakdown.
Yes.
Okay, that was something I did catch that one word in Chinese. I did hear hail. I heard that name, so I was like, that's a word I can recognize.
Oh right.
So they're talking about her. And then I actually at first thought she was a spy. Because the way she was talking with him, I'm like, she's totally a spy.
Yeah, I thought she was a host built by someone when she first started
I didn't think
talking
she was
to
a
her.
host, but I was like, she's getting information. And then in a way she was, because
Yeah.
she's getting info for corporate. I like that little switcheroo. And
Yeah.
he's all whoops.
Are they going to keep Sizemore around? He just peed on their big map.
Yes.
He just gave Westworld a golden showers. I feel like I would kick him.
Yes.
He's fired.
Yeah.
He's a writer. I mean, he can't be that good of a writer that if you get drunk and then you start peeing around the corporate headquarters.
Yes.
For an
You're
artist to
gonna
be
keep-
tortured, you first must be an artist, as Teresa
then-
said.
Well, I think he's like a tortured artist is only
Yes.
creating for artists or something like that,
Yeah.
right?
Chat room, a couple people have pointed out that Charlotte she was in episode 1 getting off the train. But we do know that from her conversation with Sizemore, she enjoys going in and playing.
Right.
So that is a nice, good Easter egg find, guys.
That's a nice find. So she's on the train with Teddy
in the
in the
first
first
episode.
episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
That ties it all in, because even if, was it 2 episodes ago or last week, I get them all jumbled a little bit with Teresa and Ford talking about that there's already someone from corporate here.
Yeah.
Right.
So that ties it all in all the way from episode 1. So the beauty of it is watching. I can't wait till this season's done and then watching 1 through 10, and then we'll know what to look for and be like, oh my gosh, it all makes perfect sense
Right.
now.
Yeah.
I hope at least by the end of the season we get a sense of what the timelines are. I hope that's kind of explained by the end of it, and then we can have fun in those different timelines and know what's going on.
Someone in the chat said they must be keeping Sizemore around for a reason.
Well, Teresa did mention if they do get Ford
Yes,
out,
he'd be the replacement.
right, but they wouldn't look here.
As in out at the bar area and you're not doing anything and you're on your ass, so you need to get inside and get to work.
Thank you.
Yes.
I wanted to tie that one. I was like, okay.
Oh, no, I totally thought that too. Of like, they're not going to come out here to the pool and be like, hey, who wants to write our narrative? So
Nice,
he needs to
nice.
get
Right.
back inside.
Well, any final
I
thoughts?
want him to,
Yeah.
I mean, I understand. Like, he put his heart and soul into his narrative and Ford pretty much just threw it out the window in a second.
Sure.
But I mean, as a writer, you should be used to your ideas getting changed and destroyed and having to redo it again. Because sometimes whoever you're giving it to, they might not like it. So I want him to, come back and be like more vivacious and like, okay, I'm part of this now. Because before he's just like, right now he's just like, man, life sucks. I'm going to piss on everything because I'm upset and drunk. And I'm like, oh, come on. Because he's kind of a cool character, but he's just like, meh, right now.
I like to having a creative writer character.
Yeah, he was interesting.
I've been that guy in writing rooms before and trying to like write. I've written for video games before and had to write 50 ways to say, hey, there's a bear on the battlefield. So I get what he's going through. That's hard to write.
Yes.
And to figure out all the like little ties and ends on video games.
Should we just go into predictions, or because we've
I
kind of
mean,
been
Our
doing
show
predictions
is
the whole
theories
show?
and predictions, so no.
But we can talk about what's going on next week. Did we see what's happening next week?
Yeah,
some
I
of us-
saw
A
it.
little bit, but they're doing a good job of giving you kind of just like peppering of information, so you're not like, I know exactly what's gonna happen. You're
Right.
just kind of like, oh. Well, a thing we saw before, but that was the coming up seasons, is Maeve wearing the butcher's jacket cloak thing, which we didn't see that.
Yeah,
Not yet.
Not yet.
And also, I think we're gonna address the question of like, can Maeve attack humans, attack guests?
Yes.
So like attack guests and people
Yeah.
behind the scenes, because right now she's done stuff that I think in the game would be fine. Like she put a knife up against his throat but didn't actually cut him.
I would
and
have
didn't
liked a
actually hurt
little
him.
slice, because then we would know either
Right.
way.
And then also
Or a
there's
little bleed.
there is like, and is that okay in the park? Because people have been rather choked out and beaten
Man
up
in
and
Black
bruised.
got unconscious.
Yeah, he got knocked unconscious,
knocked
but I
unconscious.
think he's so far into the game that as long as he doesn't actually get like really hurt or killed, then it's okay.
What I think is we're going to find is that Charlotte is there, and she's in full support of actually Teresa. I believe that they're trying to get Ford out.
Right.
Charlotte is trying to get Ford out, and they're going to prove it by showing, and we kind of see that in the
because
preview.
they say that they're very dangerous.
They're going to try to prove how dangerous the hosts are.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in essence, it's a flat out attack on Ford, and that's where Ford. We're going to see that last maybe 2 episodes from now, that card to be played.
I'm also curious to see what the fate of Elsie is, because
Yes.
She knows too much.
Well, a lot
she
of
was
people are like,
grabbed.
she doesn't think she died because it wasn't resolved in that scene. Like,
Right.
if she died, it would have probably happened in that scene.
I do have to say she was a character
Arnold grabbed her. No, I'm just...
I was really afraid she was gonna go. I was afraid she was gonna
I totally
die.
thought that was it. That's going to be like, she's dying in this episode.
Yeah.
Well, here's a question to everyone watching and listening: Who attacked Elsie? Let
Yep.
us know. Send us that on the comments, on iTunes, on YouTube. Send us what you think. Any other theories before we wrap this up? Anything else?
Someone asked a good question, and good question
Go
for you guys. Is Maeve now smarter than human beings if she got that
Yes.
thing up?
Yes, Felix.
Well-
Felix told her even.
She's faster.
Than
She's
most
faster.
humans.
Her processing is more
Okay.
than human beings, which means she's a quicker thinker, and probably in all sense of what intelligence is, probably smarter.
But in the
Okay.
beginning, didn't Felix tell her that you're superior here? The only thing is that we are controlling you.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they turned up her intelligence.
Right.
Yeah.
So
lot.
she clearly is going to be the queen bee, as they say, for now.
Which is unexpected. I thought it was going to be Dolores.
I love
Yeah.
it. I'm fascinated with Maeve's character. Absolutely.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
So,
But-
sorry, you were going to say something.
I was gonna say I can't wait to see what new Radiohead song is gonna be in the next episode.
Oh, yep, someone else called that
I
one, too.
love all the Radiohead references. We got Fake Plastic Trees, and I couldn't remember the name of the other one, but that was also Radiohead for when they're walking Maeve around the offices.
Oh, that was a beautiful music there, too.
The music is so good. I really can't. I really hope they release like a vinyl version of this through Mondo or something.
And not just the like the throwbacks to some old pop songs, but I think the score itself,
Yes.
incredible.
So good.
It's I feel such sci-fi terror. And especially in these last couple of episodes, towards the end of the episodes, there's a certain little song that he's playing there. It's
Yeah, I feel like
It's
this.
menace.
I feel Blade Runner and Kubrick all like
Yeah.
wrapped up in
Yeah.
one. It's so good.
All right, so with that said, hey, Neil, take us out of here, buddy. So, Kari, where can they find you?
Yes, you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Kari D Lane. That's KaridLane, and Facebook at Kari Lane Actor.
And you can find me at mrdavechild or davechild.com. Also this week I'll be on Flash and Friends on Screen Junkies with Roxy and Joe Starr and Jason Mewes.
Nice.
So check me out there at Screen Junkies.
Snoochie Doochie.
Boo-boo-boo.
Hey, and Neil, where can they find you, bud?
You can find me everywhere at The Neil Plumley. That's The Neil Plumley, all over this place.
Thank you, voice of God. And Joelle, you'll see her hopefully next week. And I'm JC Rubio, JC Rubio TV, all across the board. So for Neil, Joelle, Carrie, and Dave, I'm JC again. We'll see you next time. Bye.
See ya.
Man.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.